So school, how are you going to
How you going, brother?
Yeah, right? I had to tell people this, right? The man say he don't do much interviews.
No.
And he only doing it because I went Fatima. So
Yeah.
it take about 30 years, but the Fatima thing pay off eventually.
Love it. Fatima boys are good boys.
I appreciate it. I'm glad to come through, man.
Yeah, man. Anytime.
So how was the year for you, boy? Everybody interested in hearing from Adrian Scoon. Is the hottest commodity in Carnival right now.
Oh, God.
So everybody want to know how the season went.
It was great. I think it was fantastic. I think the cool thing is seeing ideas that were, once in your mind
Right.
over COVID. To a situation where, you're locked down, you have enough time to think about, when you come back out, what you want to do.
Right.
And see that kind of grow like a child, the child go into primary school, then the child will go to high school and evolve and grow up and finally go to university. So some of these events like the Iron Park and Mecca, seeing them actually come to fruition and just seeing it work out and be successful and people absorb it for what it's supposed to be, right? And understand it and appreciate it. I think that's cool. I think that was to me one of the most satisfying parts, looking at something that was just a thought and actually coming to life. And then seeing people enjoy themselves and you feel like you're doing a good job when you're doing that, because obviously it's like foreigners coming down.
Of course.
Coming to Trinidad for the first time. But walking into this, this pan event.
Yeah.
Just like, but what's this,
So both Iron Park and Mecca came after COVID?
They were there before, but Mecca came after.
Okay.
But in during COVID, they get a chance to kind of tailor what you think needs to go forward and pause and just take stock of, where you were before and what you want to do when, this whole thing comes to an end. At some point, we probably didn't even think it was coming to an end.
Right.
And so to see that happen in that way, it was cool. Regards to, spirit, it just became this almost like a huge family of people that believe in this way of playing mass, of presenting mass, you know what I mean? So we grew as a family, and, we were able to deliver to the customers. And I think we have this type of this core following of people that, really believe in it. And I think for me, one of the great things is seeing diversity in everything, right? One thing that makes me feel proud in some of the models that we introduce is that it's embraced by all walks of life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not opposed to one particular demographic. And I think seeing those people converge, believe in something collectively, and then, be able to interact with each other, engage each other and realize that, we are Trinidadians, we can come together as one race of people, one body of people. I think that for me was, what was ultimately, very, very satisfying. And it gives you a sense of purpose going forward that you are able to bring people together in a society that sometimes has its own limitations with regards to social strata and all these different things. So to see people come together, all walks of life, partying and enjoying what we call what I call happy music. Soca music to me is just about happiness.
Right.
You know what I mean? And what a great year for music, you know what I mean?
Yeah, this was one of them years, right?
It's just incredible. I feel bad because it's like so much good music got left out.
Yeah.
And I think people are still picking up on music now.
Of course.
Catch Traffic Jam, something that people now starting to really grasp.
Yeah.
When Teja came up with Higher Power, I was like,
Bill,
I know, I'm watching it, I'm like...
You saw it in the first Soca. I noticed that in Soca. What's the name of Soca in the West again? Soca Till Sunrise, right?
Yeah.
Teja was the first person to hit the stage.
Yes.
And I spoke about it here when I recorded after that because he started the Fete. Yes. I mean, there's a vibe when you're not reaching Soca, there's an energy.
Find yourself, yeah.
But oh man, when he come on his stage, he pick it up and the song, as you say, it building up to now.
Yeah, it's still building, and I think by summertime, people will really appreciate it. Because it kind of flew everybody's head. People, it's too cultural. What is that he's singing there? Trying to be like different. But great music that I think we were totally blessed to be able to have that, because I think when the music obviously is great, I think the consumers want to come out because they can relate to the songs. So like Kes putting Cocoa Tea out early.
Yeah, first tickets was swell,
yeah. People will be like, okay, I feel in Carnival because I relate to this song.
Yeah.
we got a massive hit that he could have brought out in January that he brought out in November, December.
Right,
you know what I mean? So that kind of kick-started the season and the anticipation for the season until, I think when people really come to Soca weekend, that's when they really decide, okay, well, this carnival.
It's a kickoff. It's a kickoff.
Yeah.
So Spirit is the newest baby in the arsenal, right?
For
So yeah, how, that was something was always planned for you to do a mass band?
Yeah, for sure. I had my own ideas from a long, long time. I feel like I stopped enjoying playing mass. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because what was going on? We just in the road, and I feel like we have so much resources that have been underutilized. You know what I mean? A lot of the art community, they were not involved in Carnival. You know what I mean? I think the Lost Tribe is doing a great job all the time at going in their direction. And I am a huge fan of what they have done and what they continue to do because they have their own direction.
Yeah.
But I wanted to create something that had its own direction, that we are different to the other products that are being offered. And we're going to do things in this particular, we're going to break it up into experiences.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that was something that was always there, and I felt that it was time to just kind of disrupt the market with something completely different that, hopefully people would have loved and absorbed, and that's the case. So it's a tough business, huh?
Yeah, of course.
Very tough, very, very tough business. Toughest baby. But definitely very satisfying to know that, you people are, oh my God, thank you so much for doing this. And everybody has their house that they go to.
Of course, of course.
There are people that go to House of Humor, House of Tribe, House of Bliss. We have our own house that people subscribe to, what sort of like philosophy on masses.
Yeah.
And I think that is what makes us proud, is that we have a core community of people that just, want to play mass.
I want to tap into the idea of community because you've built a community over. I've been going to Soca for the past, it feels like 10, 15 years. It feels like forever. When was the first Soca Till Sunrise? Soca Till Sunrise was the first one, yes?
Yeah, so I mean, at that point in time, I must have been 20. I'm 40 now. I would have been about 24, 25.
Oh, yeah, as young as that.
Yeah. And I was doing events already, but I was kind of like playing around with different concepts. So I had like Girls Night Out and I had like Fete in Westmoreland. And I was just trying to understand myself as a creative. Sometimes you don't even know you possess certain things until later on in life. You like look back like, oh, this is probably why I did this, because I'm a creative, or
it's in you.
It's in you. It's like a calling. And I saw a festival in Thailand called the Songkran Festival, which is about, basically, it's like days of just wetting people down. So when I'm looking at the videos on YouTube, I notice their behavior change after they get wet. And why is that? Because obviously your inhibitions, it kind of like washes away your inhibitions as well, right? You're kind of just like no longer posing.
You wash away the phones too.
Yes, wash away the phones. Yeah. The phones have to stay inside.
Of course.
Yeah, so, us millennials, we were kind of like, more like real sensitive, our inhibitions about us when we walk in a party. Like, we had to be cool and in a corner. Like, Gen Z is different to our generation. But for us millennials, we needed that at that point in time. And then when I look back at what, Chinese laundry used to do with watercolors, and how Insomnia had that little pocket where they put water in the morning, a little short window in the morning, we wanted to kind of just continue to just make that accessible, like immerse people in this. So we came up with this idea called Soca, SOAKA, which is a double entendre. And when you're in there creating these things at 25, you're like, just
sound like a vibe.
Yeah, but you don't know that you're going to go on a journey for so long. You know what I mean? And it's cool. It's real cool. And I think what happened is the first time it was in the night. So you're wetting people down in the night with these junior Sammy trucks, but you're looking at people and people are like experiencing hypothermia in the crowd.
So the first time it wasn't a morning. It was what year was this?
This is 2011.
I see.
Yeah, in the night time.
Yeah.
So people were like, "Oh my God, this fete was amazing," but I nearly died. And I'm like, "Okay, cool. Let me make adjustment." And then I was in a meeting and one of my business partners, I'll never forget. He was like, "Is Ishad Mustafa? Shout out Ishad." He was like, I was like, "What are we doing about this hypothermia?" He's like, "Well, why don't we just bring them out in the morning and just bring Machel out and he could just wine and this is exactly what he said it, and he's like, you just wet them down." And I'm like, that is genius, So we kind of follow that model, and that's it. It's just been a journey since then.
Got you. So when was, because that fog video shoot was the crazy one that really...
That's the third one.
Oh,
that was crazy. And that was just Machel being a perfectionist and also being so intuitive into the marketplace. A lot of people don't give Machel credit for the business acumen that he has and how precise and obsessive he is at the same time about his craft now. You know what I mean? So he would have seen the emergence of the Fete and say, well, okay, this is something that's different coming to the forefront because he performed the year before. And he was like, let me capture this visually for my video. And he came and he actually the first person that brought the powder, right? Because he had the powder posse at that point in time. So they came in with the powder and they added an element as well. And then they captured it. And people, I guess at that point in time, people saw something similar to Pagua that, you know, they could relate to, that they could participate in. And the visuals really at that point in time.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I could imagine what the next year was like with ticket sales at that point in time.
Insane. And I think somebody really warned me about it in advance, that after the fog, and we always call it the fog, and he was like, next year going to be crazy. You need to take care of your tickets. In other words, they can go on the black market. You can end up with a bunch of males in the party. You know what I mean? Just back because they will have, you know, more.
Of course.
Yeah, so they want to spend more. You know what I mean? So all that kind of prepared me for how to structure the rest and increase the sustainability of the event now. Because if you just put a high demand ticket on the market without structuring how it goes, then you're going to end up in real problems.
Well, let's talk about that now, because that's one of the complaints people have about Carnival. Yes. Soca is one of them.
I saw your
video.
video.
You see it, right?
Cool,
I was talking about you.
That knows me. I was like, this man talking about me. I was like, yo, this is genius too. I love this. I get.
But it's a zeitgeist that people feeling. You know what I mean?
Sure,
because the Carnival, it's different.
Yes, for sure.
I mean, we're really in a time where you just pay for the tickets and you go.
It's bad.
But I do feel as though Soca has managed. It is difficult to do something for 10 years in this space.
It's meant to be difficult, but it is.
Yeah. Well, not the ticket part. I mean, to sustain a brand.
Yes, 100%.
Any Fete.
Yes.
So you're going for 10, 12 years now. I'm sure you see many people come up and had big events and they're gone.
Plenty.
Yeah.
I study. I'm a student of the game.
Gotcha.
I'm still studying it.
So a part of what you're saying is that if you, that high demand event, you have to manage how the tickets are sold.
100%. Because there are certain factors that have to remain in place. Right? The main thing is the male to female ratio. Right? Because there's a science behind it. I always explain it. I don't explain it to younger event producers.
Right.
So that they don't fall by the wayside. Because again, we have a responsibility for the next generation to take. I don't want to be doing this forever. You know what I mean? So, and I can't. So it's male to female ratio. So you have an event where you have more males than females. Right? So just imagine how the human behavior goes with this, right? So they have a girl dancing and it's 4 men in a circle watching her. Obviously, her inhibition's going to go up because her sensory...
Of course, she'll be safety now.
Hey, hold on. Was all these men here not feeling 100% safe now? So she doesn't really dance per se. She's more on the guard, trying to enjoy herself, but she's surrounded by sharks.
Of course,
right?
Of course.
Let's flip the scenario, right? What if you are in a scenario where there's more females than males?
Right.
First of all, the women feel a lot more comfortable because there's a lot more of females around who are not threatening them in any kind of overly, approachable, like almost like a overly sexual way. Sure. Right? And they feel more comfortable to dance and enjoy themselves in that environment. Right? Now, the guys who are at least in demand, over time, women start realizing, wait, they have no men in this Fete. So all of a sudden, they start to focus. They're the sharks now, right? And the men get better looking over time, right? So they feel a lot, because they feel more comfortable, right? Because from the essence of the event, from the beginning of the event, right? They go and they engage the men that are there, right? And they're willing to socialize them because they don't feel threatened.
Right.
So they come and they give that guy a little wine, for example. Right? And guys, you know how it is, right? You go to a party, you get one wine from a stranger. It's the best Fete of all time.
Yeah, that's 5 years of tickets.
Yeah, they go, boy, that was the best Fete ever, boy. You don't understand, you miss out, boy. One wine, eh?
Yeah, so your marketing done for you too.
Yeah, correct. So they know you're like your evangelist. Like they go back and they spread the word of mouth. And the women have a great time. So we have to maintain that ratio. We don't want it to be that it's more men than women ever.
Oh, gotcha.
Anything. And if you're in a situation like that, as an event producer, you need to drastically deal with it.
Yeah, to adjust. Yeah, something you would tell to you.
Because you're sliding down a very, very heavy. The gradient is very, very steep.
Yeah, I suppose other than that is fights and all them kind of things.
I've seen it on the Harbour Master. I've seen it.
Yeah, of course. So, Scorch, WOW Events, Caesar's Army, Private Ryan.
Yes.
The complaint is sometimes that the ticket's limited to a certain class of people. How do you respond to that?
I think it's difficult because, for example, let's just talk about the elephant in the room, which is in this particular scenario, be Soca Street, right? It's difficult because it's people that you know and you grew up with that are asking you for these favors.
With you.
You understand? So you and I would have done doing this podcast. You call me next year for 2 tickets. I'm going to give it to you because I know you.
We documenting this. But...
Yes, okay. So, yeah. But so it's difficult.
Of course,
it's difficult sometimes to. But by the time you feed your friends, your family, your business associates, your partners, your sponsors, it's very little that goes into the open market. And I think that is why, like, I created Haven, because for me, I realized that the foreigners were getting the short end of the stick. If you are a foreigner and you come into Trinidad and you have no way to navigate, there's no information available to you. You're a group of people from Denmark and you all just decide
it's difficult.
Let's try to just jump into this carnival. There's no way for you to navigate. You know what I mean? So I disappointed some people that were from Sweden, about 25 people that came up to Soca Street maybe about 6 years ago, and they came to the event asking for tickets, and the event was about to start. We have no tickets. And the disappointment on their face walking back to OWP, I was like, this is crazy. This is bad customer service on our behalf, because you could go to Mexico and navigate very well for half the price.
Of course.
You know what I mean? The product is already overly expensive, right? So you need to create a platform for people to basically understand what Carnival is, but also to purchase immediately on that platform. And that's why I created Haven, because it's unfair for sometimes I only give them to people who I grew up with, who I know, and then some people who come to Trinidad don't get to experience it. So we are working on models to basically allow people to navigate and purchase and have the best experience. And
so Haven is what, a ticketing platform?
No, but it's not. It's a travel experience platform.
I see.
So basically we put in events that we believe are high quality events, and we chronologically, you can chronologically organize that and put that on your band within seconds.
I see.
And then you could add a costume, you could add a rental car. You understand? You could add an Airbnb. So I had some Nigerians come down maybe about 5 years ago, and this pushed me to do Haven because, I mean, these people have, they travel a lot and they go to festivals and stuff. So when the guy pulled up, he's like, I'm trying to get these tickets, Adrian. Could you help me? And he shows me an Excel spreadsheet with, I have 4 Brainwash, I have 3 for Caesar's Army here, I have that. And I'm like, this is crazy that these people have to do all this homework.
Of course.
To come to travel to a place when on every other market it's readily available for you. You understand it. So I think Haven will be sort of like a remedy and solution for people that actually don't know anybody, or you know what I mean, want to just be able to just come in 5 minutes. Your carnival is organized.
That's nice. You're solving 2 problems, because the other problem is solving is the people who's walking around with 6, 7, 8 band by carnivals, and help me solve that too.
Like it is. I never understand it, because these bands, they come from all kind of different environments. I don't know why.
It's time for people to cut off their bands and lose it at that time. So WOW Events gets synonymous with Soca in your early years.
Yes.
How difficult is it to launch another Fete brand at that point?
In terms of like a company?
No, in other words, you have to go to Mecca, you have to do other brand names for Fete or events.
WOW was never a event company that wanted to push its name WOW forward.
Right.
WOW was always like more of a corporate stance. You know what I mean? Like, we are event producers.
Right.
I don't like to refer to us as promoters. We produce experiences.
Okay.
And I think that we never pushed WOW until the latter years to be the parent brand. You know what I mean? So that these brands have their own identity, and there are people that will come to Soca branch that don't go to Soca Street Festival.
Yeah, they may not connect the thing.
They don't want to do it because it's wet on their hair and they're going out to play mass the next day. It might be too high intent for them, too many people around them. Right. So what we do is try to create experiences that different people can really hang on to. And then some people that like all, and then some people that, that will only go to Big Soca in O2 Park, but don't want to go to Soca Street because they're playing Juve the next day.
Of course.
Or they find it's too hard to get a ticket. Or, you know what I mean? So it's just different. As I said before, it's about diversity in everything that we do, and to be able to also have a purpose about the events, right? We don't just create events to make money. You know, it's not about money at the end of the day.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So Soca is taking off in O2 Park. Fog is done.
Yes.
You fast forward to pre or post COVID or in those times.
Yeah, boy.
It'll be difficult times for anybody who doing events, right?
Very, very.
Your whole revenue model is built around events.
Yes. I had a cake company that called Trinidad that tanked because it was in the airport and we closed down the airport. So that was our 90% of our sales. That was a young company that was about to do very well. And then obviously, you know, WOW was going at that point in time. I had interest in the Harbour Master. All those things were parked up.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I had no revenue coming in. But luckily I just finished a carnival. So I was able to kind of hold on to my savings.
Gotcha.
And kind of battle it out from there. But that was a real dark period because I just feel like creators were not taken care of. You know? I feel like we were not seen as important at that point in time. We kind of left the fence for ourselves.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder if we see it as an industry in genuinity, you know, from the standpoint of policy. I don't know if we do. Yeah.
And I think now maybe, you know, you're talking about potentially a new prime minister. There's one right now. We have a new prime minister, and he's speaking about the things like that. I think hopefully he's able to follow through with that, and I believe he will. I think we have to look at the industry a little differently because I think one of the resources that we have that, you know, our competitors of the islands don't have is the amount of creatives we have. We have the most amount of creatives per capita, I think, in the world. Yeah. You go to Belmont, you go to Cascade, there's tons of great people that can do things that you can't get in the Caribbean. You have to go to North America. You know what I mean? I just came from Disney. The things that I saw there, right, in terms of, you know, you're talking about the artwork and the architecture and things. These are things that people are doing right here.
Home,
right here. That can take materials and mold it.
Right.
If you look at CIC stage, what Ben is doing, if you look at what Lullaby is doing, they are producers here. If you look at the Floats in Spirit, that are doing things that you see in Orlando, some of these prime markets. We just need to capitalize on that and differentiate our product.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? And they create wealth for us, our country, because as long as Trinidad's carnival is competitive, right, and we are different to the other, because we know we have competition, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Jamaica especially. People worried about it seems. That Jamaica Carnival could take over Trinidad Carnival and that kind of thing.
That will never happen.
I'm glad you say it and not me.
Yeah, that will never happen. And I say why. It's because you can't beat the original, right? This is our heritage.
Yeah.
This is where we're from. What they have is a great product in the sense that they have the beaches and the hotel inventory. And so they're competitive. But to say that they will replace the Mecca, we have so much. In fact, the thing about this carnival, and if you really take a look at it, I was speaking to a journalist the other day, and she said something that was very profound to me. She said, I can come down here every year, and I could still enjoy carnival for free.
Yeah. That's my plan for next year.
Oh, really?
I want to prove to people. No, my problem is I don't want to miss Soca.
Okay, no problem.
But I try to prove to people that you could get to see any artist and hear any music and experience the whole of carnival, pan included.
Yes,
for free.
For sure.
Yeah, because pan was one of those things that they say the tickets and all those kind of things incorporate. But you could experience pan for free, maybe even better if you go on the drag.
You go on the drag. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then you have these radio stations doing these street parties.
Of course, yeah.
Right? You see all
the biggest artists.
These artists coming
up. Or Fete Street is doing a street party.
Correct. So you have a fantastic product. And you can go on the road Monday and Tuesday and we all storm at one point.
Yeah, of course. That's where we come from.
Yeah, correct. You understand? So you can really enjoy. And Juve, nobody checking the library.
No, nobody in checking your credentials.
Yeah. So you could really enjoy it. And so I think in terms of that's where we have the advantage. I think what we need to do as well is we need to really look at the cost of playing mass. You know what I mean? And playing carnival coming down for the tourists.
Sure.
You know, the average cost right now, I mean, let's be real. You need about between $6,000 to $10,000 US to come down here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, by the time you cover events, hotel, all them things here,
it's madness.
It's expensive.
Yeah, and when you look at that, you have to compare that to like other markets, not just carnival, just like Mexico.
Yeah, it's vacation markets, right?
Cuba,
so you could spend your money and go somewhere else.
You go to London. If you go to, you could, I mean, not anymore, but but you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
but for a lot less.
For a lot less. And have a great time and still save money.
Yeah.
So we have to get together and look at the cost of carnival as a product. And we have to have sort of a public private partnership.
True.
To be able to do that, government will have a role to play. We don't necessarily need funding directly. We need to speak to the stakeholders, like the hotels, for example. I think are a major culprit. You know what I mean? Like I say this, you can't be charging $800 US and $1,000 US a night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how are we supposed to be competitive?
Yeah.
You know, if one entity is overcharging these prices, you know what I mean?
But it's difficult because the amount of flights, the amount of room, when those things limited.
We have Airbnbs. The demand will.
Well, hopefully that picks up.
Yeah,
but Airbnbs, but Airbnbs charging the same.
Yeah, we have to have some type of price gap, price limit.
Yes, that's difficult. You know, when you say public-private partnership, like I always wonder, there's a promoters association now.
Yes,
you are a member of it?
No.
So you're not sure about what their mandate is or what their goal is. I always wonder about that because I feel as though you're right. The public-private partnership, like the role of governance for me should always be about infrastructure.
Yes, correct.
Not necessarily to invest directly.
Correct.
But if you could help build the infrastructure, because once they have abundance, the price will go down. It's demand and supply.
Yes.
So once you have a Hyatt and you have to book, not just the $800 US, sometimes you have to book that the year when you're leaving.
Or you could only book it for 5 days.
That's right.
That's minimum stay is 5 days.
Of course.
So that's $4,000 US. Between two people, 2,000 a person, 2,000 USD, and this is not your flight.
Yeah.
So
and you ain't do nothing for Carnival.
No, you ain't do nothing. you ain't buy clothes. You understand? So when you really check the money, you have to be very affluent to come down here, and I think that's where the other markets will catch up, and that's where the Grenada will catch up, and the Barbados will bounce back, and the consumer will watch the spend.
Right.
So in the meanwhile, while we haven't fixed that, it's important for us event producers to be very different. To bring in our resources, like the art community, that nobody else has, to create a product that's different. So that people can say, all right, well, I spending $6,000, $7,000 US, but I can't get this anywhere else.
Yeah, the value of the experience is worth it.
Correct. So private sector has been left to basically carry the mantle. You understand? So we just need to sit down. I mean, the public sector is doing their own thing. NCC is doing their own thing, putting on their own shows, which is great. Right? But we still need to get together as a stakeholders and really decide, okay, guys, it's better for everybody if this price comes down. So what can we do? If we're telling the hotels, okay, you need to put a little gap on your price, a ceiling on your price, then maybe give them a tax break for that quarter. Let them know that they will see back the money somewhere else if they forfeit it. But there needs to be that type of discussion because it's becoming too expensive.
I think and when you say, I heard you talk about the Blue Ocean strategy as part of what you do, like,
I love it.
And the art is how you tapping into that. One of the ways you're tapping into it by
the art is how to get away from everybody else. You know what I mean? So we have no, we see other entities copying our model, right? I like that because what it does, it makes Trinidad Carnival different.
Of course.
You understand what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, the consumer only has disposable income. And there's a limit on the consumers that are willing to come. So if they come and they spend our money in Trinidad, I have no issue with that because it goes through the cycle, it goes through the ecosystem. You understand? And we compete amongst ourselves, great, no problem. But we keep ourselves better. I noticed a lot of bands improve this year. You understand? Which is great for the customer and great for the carnival. We will all do better if the market cap increases because the consumers want to come to Trinidad as opposed to any other island.
I had Conrad Beard, Affordable Imports on last episode, and he was talking about how Dubai was able to create a diamond district or a gold. It's like that we have here. You have several different people competing, but if we create this sort of a food court carnival, you must come here to get whatever the experience is. We had to continue to define what carnival is, even for people who do it in other territories. We have to continue being the leader. You know what I mean? And I'm proud to be Trinidad. I'm proud to be from a place that we have a unique product. And we create all the music too. Self-sufficient. Right? We are a whole ecosystem of people that are just absolutely talented and creative. It's just some of the young people I talk to now. I keep meeting new creatives too as I continue my journey. And they're so amazing. I mean, the Coroner, a sculptor, a designer. She designed the Spirit stage for band launch. She designed the Soca stage. She designed our carts and all the art is she on the carts and the seashells on the Argyle waterfall. I mean, just stuff that they bring into life that people just taking pictures of it in awe. You know what I mean? So,
And these are people that just need a platform.
Of course.
You understand what I'm saying? So that's where we need to continue engendering the art. The art community is where the gold is.
I saw something change over the years in Soca where, again, I used to see a lot of people flying for Carnival Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, boy.
And then little by little, all my friends who I know from school and from UE, I started to see them in Soca Street.
Yes.
Not Soca Street, in Soca Sunrise, Big Soca.
Yeah.
I was like, holy here already.
Yeah.
So we come for Soca.
Yeah.
That's something y'all were planning, like to have so many visitors coming in that time?
Yeah, for sure. And that's why we don't do it on the outside. We want people to come to Trinidad.
You don't do it anywhere else?
No. It's a philosophy binding this thing together where Trinidad is the product. You have to fly into Trinidad and Tobago, right? Less is more. We don't need to do it in every other country or anything like that, because they will eventually. What I think will happen is that they'll be like, oh well, I saw it. I did this in Miami and I did this in New York and I did this in whatever country, and I don't really want to. I need to come down to Trinidad again. So our whole thing is, because we have papers, we think that's the key to our sustainability.
With you.
But they do come down, and specifically because it's a great weekend to come down. You have the Iron Park on Friday.
Right, so that was one of the reasons you developed it into a festival weekend? Got it.
Yeah.
So what was the seed behind Iron Park? Where did that come from?
I was in Japan by Tim Richard's house in OWP, and I was here in Phase 2.
Right.
And Phase 2 was just playing, and this is beautiful. And then they continued to play, and after 15 minutes, I got bored.
Right.
Like me, with my ADHD, got bored. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I was like, wow, what would make this more exciting is if you put a DJ with this. So like, when I'm bored, I can play some music, catch back cleanse my palate.
Yeah, and bring it back.
And then more pan again. You know, and another director was like, oh, that's a good idea. Why you don't try that? You know? So then we developed this model after Soca Street, and we tested it. So when you left Soca Street that year, you went into a box, and it was called the Iron Park.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I wanted to see it play out in real life. So we hired, I think it was Desperados and Hans and Gonzo, and they played when you walk in on the Fete. And one guy who is a brand manager at a prominent distribution company, I'm not calling his name, he walked up to me crying. And he was like, Adrian, you don't understand, there's so much mean to me. And he was drunk, but, he still, his inhibitions was down. And he started crying and thing. And when I saw those tears, I was like, this is serious. You know what I mean? And then we took it to market, and obviously it did very, very well. Yeah.
I went to it for the first time this year.
Oh, you lie? You went to it?
It was impressive. It was impressive. I always end up with the ticket for the weekend.
Right. Okay.
But to all, I can't make, I say, boy, now, boy. I say, I don't want to do nothing that's going to make me miss Soca. A long time. But I find it was impressive, and I'll tell you where I was really, really impressed, because Pan is special to people. Pan is special to us. But to see them youths get a chance to play their music from their era, or even different music that they would be practicing with Silver Stars. And may not play that kind of music for the whole carnival, because Silver Stars playing the XYZ, you know? Yes. And they had an energy, boy. The energy of them youths was something else.
That's crazy. The young people that basically dedicate their lives to a craft out of passion.
Yeah.
Let's be real. They're not being paid a significant amount of money. And when you go to practice, and when you go to these panyards, these youths basically are up till 12, 1 o'clock. Every night. Then they have to go to school. And do well there, and then dedicate the rest of their evening to Pan. It's a phenomenon when you think about it, because it's not like somebody's bribing them and say, hey, you take this 5,000. I'm like, no, these guys doing it because they love Pan. It's in their culture. So I really appreciate the younger people that are in part of these Pan bands, Pan sides, and young groups like Silver Stars, like Supernovas. Like it's just amazing to see them just come to the forefront and add to the the landscape.
Yeah, Supernovas was amazing in that show that I did.
First time I heard them back, I was like, what is? And we up in Lopino. So we up in Lopino in the bush. I didn't even know you all have a Pan side here.
Yeah. Kitchener talk about that, Then he's talking about Soko band. That's what you're talking about. Bands in every little crevice in the country coming along.
Okay, it's one of my favorite songs. But I Supernovas again, and then you have the experience of All Stars. And, you know what I mean, coming to the forefront. So it's good.
Yeah, so for people who might not go on, Despers, Silver Stars, Supernovas, and then All Stars holding on the center. They transition and they lead people out.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Something else I experienced. Where the idea came from to make that competitive, like a clash?
Oh, I think just from competition creates interest.
Yeah.
In the for the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we wanted to do was make it like WWE in a way,
Mm-hmm.
or like how football is packaged, right? Where you back this pan side,
gotcha.
You know what I mean? So that's where the marketing kind of comes in. It's like it's entertainment,
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
That's
you want to have some sort of drama,
right,
in it. You know what I mean? And that's panorama.
Mm-hmm.
You have that competition, but this is a lot more cute.
Right.
And it's a little bit more contemporary in terms of what you're allowed to play
mm-hmm.
and whatnot. So they play different songs and they just try to show the diversity, and our people love that. We did the noise meter this year. It didn't work well for Silver Stars,
right.
And I think they were upset about it. But
of course.
But I think Travis played the drum during the noise while the noise was recording. So obviously their score went off, and we could not record that score.
Gotcha.
But we're gonna go back and use that noise meter, because that's before I used to decide who was the winner, and that was unfair.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? Based
Mm-hmm.
on crowd response. So we put in the science in place, and I think all that is drama. People
yeah,
have seen
of course.
that before.
Yeah, listen, people like that.
Yeah. They get robbed, and you know what I mean? People was like, you robbed Silver Stars, and you're being aggressive towards me. Yes, but I know that I have your commitment because you're emotionally involved.
Yeah.
Attached to it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I want to talk about that brand building part, but you know that when I saw the noise meter, because what I saw was Silver Stars have a huge score.
Yes.
And then I see other scores. I was a little confused.
It was because Travis pressed the snares.
I
boom,
see.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah,
boom,
so it would have been
unfair
recorded.
He shouldn't have done that, you know what I mean? And he was like, oh, you didn't tell me nothing, but I was like, it's a noise meter, so the other teachers didn't play it, so, but that kind of messed up their score. So obviously for their brand, it affected their brand.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I still have to talk to them. I don't know what their position is, but.
Okay, yeah. Well, we can have that conversation because the truth is like when they introduced VAR in football, it just creates a different element of drama.
Yes, for sure.
So now they thought that when VAR came in, it would eliminate the argument, but it just heightened it.
Yes.
It just heightened it.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it's just evolving into its own product.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about WOW Events for a minute before I get to Soca Street, because there's a special thing.
Yeah, sure.
WOW Events, how does it feel to be building a brand? You say you're 24 years old. This is just an idea.
Yeah.
And now it's one of the brands that you see outside of Carnival time. You're bound to see somebody in a WOW Events jersey somewhere.
love that. And that's key, because I think for Soca, the jerseys that we give away, it really, I love to see all walks of life in it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I buy the doubles man and a vagrant will pull up, right? And in a Soca jersey. We've all seen it before, right?
Yeah.
And I like it because it shows that because you will see people from, again, all walks of life wearing it. You might see some girls wearing it and go to the mall. You might see
people exercising
it. And it just shows that there's this one thing that we do have that we all like and we subscribe to, and it's cool. And even for the people that are homeless and being, at least we get something out there by, we providing something.
Of course.
Some relief somewhere, so I think it's just become one of those household brands. When you put out 10,000 jerseys over 15 years, that's 150,000 jerseys that are out into a country with 1.5 million people.
Covering 10%.
So it's theoretically there's some overlap there, but it's 10%. You know what I mean? So we're gonna keep pushing that out, and I think it's great for sponsors because they pay for that. We don't pay for that. The sponsors for their branding, because it's like a magazine. Your ad is given out throughout, distributed. So in that way, that particular thing works very well. But the intention was to just drive people, obviously. And it still is. When you go in your car, you could put on your change and you change.
Yeah, it makes sense. And when I see it, I wonder, like, the biggest brands in the world pride themselves on that. I read a book where Harley Davidson was looking at their measure of brand loyalty was how much people tattooed Harley on their skin.
Right. Well, yeah.
So it's a big mark of how committed people are to it. Like, we have shoes home, we call it Soca shoes.
Yes.
So we get dirty and get paint up and say, I have my Soca shoe until it busts. And it's one of the things I like seeing when I leave in Soca. Watch and see how much souls you see. People's soul left them because they must be wearing that every year for many years.
Yeah, for sure. And it's crazy because it's still going on.
I remember my first year going to Soca Street. I remember a good friend of mine, Damien, was at Graphic House, and he was doing some work with you earlier.
He does a lot of work for us.
Yeah, and we go in Soca every year, me and his wife and everybody.
Yeah.
And he said, boy, I just come Soca Street, boy. Carnival Sunday morning. Same thing you're saying. I said, Damien, they think to get me sick Carnival Monday morning. But the first time I went, it was amazing. The vibe in it, I mean, Soca is already hard to copy.
Yes.
In terms of the energy and the feel.
Yeah.
But Soca Street, and I remember that year, the thing was in the street. This year I went, it was a whole different ball game.
Yes.
It's as big as Big Soca now.
Yes.
How big is it?
It's between 5 and 6.
Yeah. And Big Soca is what kind of number?
Like 8 around there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But we could go more. We just can't fit more in Outer Park.
Right. Oh, I guess,
we don't want to move from Outer Park.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember one year we were in the Savannah. It was something to do with the Outer Park. Or?
Yeah, we didn't see eye to eye with the way and things at that point. But no, we're now business partners.
Oh, nice.
So,
good.
that is done well. And I think it was good for us to go to the Savannah to see the difference of the energy. Savannah was great in terms of logistics.
Mm-hmm. You're a bit way better.
Yeah, when I
but
got
energy was different.
Yeah, energy is not the same as the hill and the sea and all those things create atoms, create energy. The sea is a big part of energy. The sun, seeing the sun and the sea combined is a big part of energy. You know, how you feel, know, it's at that time. So the Savannah has this mountainous area. Mm-hmm. It does create energy, but different type of energy.
Yeah, it's different though. You're right. It felt good reaching home 5 minutes after Soca than I home.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather than the traffic coming out of
the traffic is, I mean...
Yeah,
now people, they get creative, they use boats, and I think there are people who, it's an adventure for them,
Yeah.
So they join up in the bus and they go with their friends and they don't mind the traffic back because they party and whoever knock out, whoever. It's just, you block out that time to know that this is, you know, it's like a ride in Disney. If you can't afford a fast pass, you're going to wait for about an hour.
Of course, in every line.
Yeah, in every line. So there's just things that you do to sacrifice to go to experience. And I think the customer has grown accustomed to that. You know, it's worth it for me.
Yeah.
Hopefully it continues being worth it for them.
Of course, it shows that you did well to develop what people feel to be a festival. Because people put aside the weekend for it now.
Yes.
So during that period, there was the fog. Yeah. And then we didn't see Machel for several years. And then this year, all of a sudden, Machel come out. I didn't know he was going to be there. Yeah, I was in the dark, or people didn't know.
we didn't know. That was a real late call because he wasn't scheduled to perform.
Right.
I guess when I heard the song, I knew that it was going to be a big song.
Right.
Right. But that was a real great last minute call. Again, it's like drama too, because I think it was on the night of the Iron Park. We were like, okay, we're going to do it.
Okay.
Right. And he comes to the show or whatever. And then, you know, at that point in time, Bunji is, you know, Carrie, it is it's still the ground song. It's making waves to the ground.
Yeah.
And I mean, just the intro alone is just Corie, right? Like, what is he singing about too? And his voice.
Everything.
Just
he have energy.
Beat, everything is perfect, you know? And but then Party is coming up as well. And I think the magic that morning was seeing them perform back to back.
Yeah.
You know, the audience, Bunji comes to this huge intro that we pre-record for him, right? You hear the lady talking about the Viking of Soca, and giving him this big intro, and it's fireworks. And then right after that, people are like, well, that's great performance, let's go back to but then Machel comes after 5 years,
Yeah.
You know, of him performing in a fete, other than his own.
There is.
And I think it was the whole, like, them performing back to back without an intermission. And people not knowing he was coming.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and that's something people wouldn't have seen in any fete for a long time, even longer than the 5 years. To see Bunji hand off and Machel come on.
Yeah.
And Bunji had that fete in a grip this year.
Yes, he had it in a grip.
Would that carry it on 1,000?
And then he had songs that, again, I'm very upset that Celebration was not absorbed because
Fete we like.
Or Fete. Yeah.
He had a hell of a year.
Great, awesome person.
Yeah, but telling people, like, this year in Soca was the first time I felt like the old brass festival vibe. We're just going a frenzy because by the time Bunji come off the stage and I look around, I buy complete strangers. I realize how far am I from my cooler? I said, what the hell going on? I had to go and find people back.
Yeah.
And then Machel come and top it off. So it's something that you feel is going to happen going forward. Where
energy.
Yeah,
I think everything is a cycle in Carnival. You know, everything is a cycle in life. You know, fashion from 30 years ago coming back.
Yes.
People are the baggy clothes now. You know, from the 90s. So you see that, and I think we are now on the advent of a cycle where people want that energy brass festival fight. You see Hard Fete.
Yeah,
when I look at the images from Hard Fete, I call him. I was just like, I cannot believe it.
I didn't think that could have happened again.
No.
I didn't think it would have come back.
No. I was like, bro, you all know what you all just did there? Because it's people just leaving everything at home and they coming out to express it. That's like a much better.
Yeah.
This is what you see at the Travis Scott concerts.
Of course.
This is what you see now coming in. That's being big in America, but it's translated to our genre. We're going back to.
Yeah, that's what we used to see in PSA and Spectrum and them places.
Man, woman, we don't care. We fit it. And it's I thought these seen with Sherman Chester. It's to see that happen. It's the start of, I think, another cycle of people we're not in this kind of groovy thing. I love my groovy.
Of course.
Right? But it's people want the energy. They want to jump up with a stranger.
Of course, yeah. You saw it. I had doubts, I tell myself soca is that way because people wet and they can't take out their phone.
Yeah.
When I see hard Fete, I say, nah, boy, it's something.
Yeah, and you and I'm asking, is this what we've been? Is this a result of COVID that we've been suppressed? So we kind of now reach our comfort level where we want to totally express.
You must get
break away. It's so I don't know if it's because of that but what if they build on that and they have a responsibility with that event, and I keep telling them you have to be very careful that you don't just spoil it and just try to do too much. You have to keep the essence and scale properly now because it's so pivotal. It can change the way in which we party for the next 10 years. So I think they have a great responsibility on their hands with that event in terms of where our effect, because we're no longer on the wearing and
yes. I never thought I'd come back to them days, but it would be nice to see the next 10 years because I feel like younger people need to experience that.
Yes.
And they did at hard Fete. It was young people. It's not my age.
But Gen Z is like that. Gen Z doesn't care about the frills,
I suppose.
They're not into all the debauchery and luxury and things. They dress how they want to dress. They are their own selves. They may have maybe a couple limitations here and there, different millennials, but they are very much rooted in themselves.
Yeah, and being true to themselves.
And the Kutain followers, of course. They have their own essence. And I think they will be the ones to push that energy because they get along very well with each other.
Of course.
Yeah. They don't watch each other.
Like we times in school. Who wearing what?
Who's you? Where you come from? Where you think from? Where you living? They don't care about that. They're just on love. So I love Gen Z for that. And I'm proud of them for being that way. And I think that Hard Fete will be the genesis of this whole new movement of people just enjoying themselves.
Of course, yeah. It would be nice to see it.
I hope
it would be nice to see it.
I hope for it.
So in terms of artists, you brought up Kutain, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that I wonder sometimes with people who do events is that choice of what your lineup looks like on a night. Two reasons I'm asking that. Because one, I might have the biggest of the songs last year, and then nobody will see it the year after.
It's tough.
Yeah, it's difficult. And then you have people who like Kutain, them fellas and them controlling a certain audience. Yeah. And you wonder, okay, how do you decide as an event manager?
I just go with the hits.
So you go in with the biggest hits of the year?
It's tough for me because I have a lot of good relationships.
Of course.
Right? A lot of these guys are people who I would talk to because I'm generally interested in the music.
Right.
I will go into each studio. I will go by Anson. I will go by Tasia.
Right.
I will beg to hear the songs before. Like a fan. Right? And they know I come in. Right? But they give me the time because obviously, I guess to them, they respect me as a creative and they want to kind of show me what they're coming with. So prepare your events remember I have volumes, so it's a good platform for each of them.
Yeah.
And I think with regards to the lineup, it's tough because I've seen people who I have good relationships with that have to leave off the cast because the audience doesn't feel their music.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So it's very disappointed for some artists when you have a genuine relationship with them and you say, nah, you can't run on. And then some of them will do it for free. They'll come, let me run on. I'll be like, bro.
Nah, man.
Yeah. And
serious. So even if they're doing it for free,
I can't. Because it's about the audience. It's not about our relationship. It's really, and that's tough for me because that's when you kind of get business-like on them. But you have to remember, you can't be if there was one promoter that used to do that a lot, right? And everybody started running up on the stage. Because if you can let this one do it and that one do it, you can't let me do it. And then all of a sudden, this person come up with a new song that nobody knows. and everybody stand up on there, or some men want to sing the whole album. You understand what I'm saying? And we just out there, just out there, confused now. And it kills the energy level. And when you are at 100 or like 98, to bring you back down to 0 and then come back again, that come back again is hard for a DJ. So you need to, if you're come down at 70 and then go back up at 90 and stay at 70 and go back. But anytime I realize your song gonna bring you down to like a 10 or a 0, the relationship gets a little weird because I literally just do what I think is good for the customer now, which is, in this case for Soca, we came on, we know Tasia had energy.
Yeah, boy.
Do we know that? We heard it a million times by the time it came, but there are people who now get into mainstream. Mainstream person, a person who not into Carnival knows the song. So you have to bring in Tasia. You have young brother who has a fan base and a popular song, you bring him in, and then you start to deal with the carry it and the party. And then you have a man like Voice who his music was, I told him, I said, your music this year was fantastic.
Yeah.
But he can always give you a show.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with him. You spend your money as an event producer. Voice is going to deliver a certain level of performance that is very dependable.
Yeah, he's not going to dip below that 70.
Nah, he depend.
Yeah.
Not every time you're going to get the 100, but a sure guarantee he's not going to dip now. Yeah. And that's because he's worked very hard on his catalog.
Yeah, I was impressed this year.
Love.
Because when I see Bunji and Machel, and then I hear Voice, I say, oh God, that's a rival voice.
Yeah.
But boy.
Because he knows he has confidence.
Yeah.
No, a lot of artists do not want to go after them.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would not go.
Yeah. I know, and I want to call some names, but they'll be vexed. They refuse to perform. I want to call some names, but they refuse to perform, you know what I mean? And it's tough going on after them, but he's at a point now where I think he has enough catalog, and I think, people say, they find his song the same way and whatever, right? But this is his style, right? Adele songs almost the same way on every song.
I hear that about David Rudder. It's all the time they say Kitchener singing the same thing every year.
Yeah.
But that's normal.
Yeah,
that's normal. People say that all the time.
Yeah,
right?
I love Two and Way. I love the Sparrow. I love Higher. I love his music this year.
Yeah. I think
I think Two and Way was up there. Top three.
Yeah, I guess because with Carry It and Party had a little war, everything else could get forgotten. But
Two and Way invokes a feeling in you that you can.
And I feel like it's one of those songs too that, like you said, like by summer.
Yeah.
It's starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Crazy.
So that's not something you do outside of Carnival. You do events as well?
Nah, I don't want to. I know it's about Carnival. We're a Carnival company.
Right.
So in this period of time, we would rest. We are now regrouping. All the creators will come together and say, okay, so what we doing? For Soca, I'm looking at maybe like doing something more of the Aztecs or maybe like a time machine. I might want to create a carnival, a character, because I don't want to take IP from anybody else.
Of course.
So I might create a Mr. Barnabas and the time machine part 1 and we go back in time in Trinidad. You know what I mean? And then we go to the future in part 2 or so I would want to kind of create that. So I have a fantastic team of people that will just come together and we will sit and eat Chinese food and just
figure out something.
Yeah, it's a hot seat too, because if you come up with a lame idea, we're gonna let you know that we're going out with you today, for you go
on. Like it's an unkind.
Yeah, you don't want that. Yeah, it's a little bit, and I get too, but I'm creating an environment where you're comfortable to see how you feel.
Nice.
You understand? So remember, it's Trinidadian.
Yeah. There's some peacock.
The little peacock is part of it. You won't be Trini if you don't have a little peacock.
If you're a carnival company, you need that too, right?
Yeah, you need that. So somebody have a bad idea. If I have a bad idea, they rose.
Yeah, they must be waiting for you.
They're waiting for me. And that to me, as much as some people might say, oh gosh, they have other ways to do things,
right.
I think it's a very healthy, open environment.
Yeah.
You can be transparent about how you feel.
Of course, it allows you to innovate.
Yeah.
So being a carnival company, is it sustainable from a business standpoint?
For sure, yeah.
And just deciding you make a philosophical decision that is Trinidad Carnival.
Yes, that's Trinidad. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, it's sustainable because the market cap is much bigger.
Right.
You have a lot more people willing to spend money. When I used to do events in the summer, it was always like, well, I have a wedding to go to, or my family flying out, so people are just all over the place in the summer. I feel like in Carnival there's new music, which guides the entire season as far as I'm concerned. and people are willing to come out and really, you see, you have to get people also when they want to party. Soca Street is easy because everybody comes there.
That's in party mode. There's nothing else to do.
You're not coming to waste time. You're actually not coming to even feel out things. You're just going to party.
No, you're going. Yeah. And they now come from a party and they headed to a party after.
Yeah. So I think Carnival is that's where the spirit is different around that time.
Right. Now everybody want me to get to spirit, right? Yes. But before I get there, let me talk about Mecca.
Yes, sir.
In terms of bringing the arts in and the uniqueness that you've created with the Soca brand.
Yes.
What is the art that you're bringing into Mecca?
We're creating all the art. We are recreating the art. So what we do with Mecca is that we take all the Trinidad art, like all our folklore, all our characters, and we redraw them. Right? So there are artists that we engage and we say, okay, can you redraw the Dam Lorraine? What would the Dam Lorraine look like in 2030? So Marvel has a series called What If? And it's like the what if of all our characters. What if the Jab was not a man? What if the Jab was a woman? Right? And so, because it's very easy for us to just hire a company and say, bring 5 Jab, bring 2 Moko Jumbies, bring things. Sure. Yeah, then we will not be swimming in a blue ocean. So the whole thing is to take our characters, redesign them, reproduce them, right? And we will kind of own those designs as well. And basically, when the customer comes into the event, those characters, you are immersed in this town or this area, this event of all these characters. So it gives the foreigner a chance to engage them. You understand? Engage the baby doll. Right. You know what I mean? So that they can take their pictures and their content and understand it. Because you have to remember, these foreigners are not going to the masquerade.
Yeah, they may not know about the characters at all if you don't give them the opportunity.
Yeah, they're not going to Kings and Queens. Because that format is already antiquated at this point for the younger generation.
Right.
So it's difficult for them. They're not buying tickets. Nobody's going to say, hey, we're going Kings and Queens and we're going...
Yeah, they may not know it exists.
They don't know it exists.
Yeah, they think Carnival is Fetes on the street.
So it's best you bring that into it and create a hybrid between a Fete and also this kind of Broadway version of our characters being exposed. And why I say Broadway is that these are also dancers. So the characters are constantly moving. Right, and then they join the artists on stage. So you might see Olatunji performing, but then we have 4 sailors there dancing up with him. He doesn't know what the routine is, but we already know what songs they're playing. So we support your performance with dancers from the Dam Lorraine and stuff. So and then on the backdrop of that, we have a Kings and Queens winner every year.
Okay.
Right, so we use Leo Lacan for the last 2 years.
Okay.
Right, so we build a stage based on the Kings and Queens winner.
From the year before?
Yeah, from the year before.
I understand.
Yeah. So then we look at the costume and say, oh, what is it? Okay, this year is about Zeus. Okay, we're going to build like this castle in the sky to represent Zeus, the gods. So what we do is we just extend your costume as the stage itself, and then we add the characters on the stage and in the crowd to reading. And Mecca just become its own thing. And every year we make new characters. Yeah. So that in year 7 or 8, you're going to be totally immersed in this town of characters.
Oh, so you bring back the characters they've already
keep adding.
Got it.
So we're going to have like 50 in the next 5 years.
I understand.
Yeah.
Like I hear this talk sometimes, and people sometimes feel like to be very cultural and traditional, you have to give up the profit motive.
Nah. No, you see, for me, this is my personal view, is that money always chases quality. You understand? And I think consumers will spend where they believe they get the best value proposition. Right? But you have to create that quality. Once you create quality, people will find you. You know, people talk about, oh, well, Adrian, you need to go here and network, and you need to go there and join this and play golf and do all those things, right? but for me, it's
join the lodge.
Join the lodge. And, yeah. I mean, different show for different folks, right? But I honestly believe it's once you have something of the utmost quality and you give people value, they will always come back. They will always spend their money because people just want to feel free. People want to have a great experience because life is tough. Life is hard, especially in Trinidad. The quality of life.
We need that escape.
We need that.
Yeah.
So it's bad news. It's a lot of crime. You know, so people are willing to say, okay, it might be more expensive than the another event, but I know, I'm sure, I spend my $600 here. I'm sure I'm going to have the time of my life. You know what I mean? And that's because the event, what you produce and what you give them has a lot of quality. So we don't cut cost when it comes to quality to the consumer. There's no cutting of cost. And I have an accountant, she's always like, Adrian, you don't need that. And I'm like, yes, more floats, more design. Because but just give them this, give them that. You know what I mean? Because we still make money, but we could make more money.
Right.
But I think we could eat little and live longer, and we are living longer.
Yeah, like people talking about this customer lifetime value. You're looking at a Fete over 20 years, not necessarily.
Not 5 years.
You don't want to make it
not
now.
Today. No,
Yeah,
I don't need to make it now.
Yeah.
And they need to feel comfortable as well.
Yeah, I think I love the idea. And this is not stuff that I knew. I learned this as I go, because I think involving the art community in Trinidad and Tobago is so important. As I saw recently, the dragon from Kilimanjaro, the man who was dealing with the teaching so many children to learn to walk Moko Jambi and stilts, passed away recently. And a lot of times you find that the people who are at the core of the tradition of what made us have a carnival, they seem to get left behind because of the commercialization of carnival. So people always criticizing the beads and the feathers, destroying the culture.
Yes.
But it seems as though it's spirit. You want to still merge those things.
Yes.
One is not at the expense of the other.
No. Why can't we have both? You know, and there are masqueraders that like different things, and we even started to have a lot more covered options now. You know what I mean, for our masqueraders, a lot more monokinis and stuff, because there as I said before, there are people who are young and fit that want to be covered. They may be a mom. They might have a job where, you know, they don't want to be exposed. A teacher in a school, right? So you need to you think about everybody and what they would like. And I think it doesn't necessarily need to go down, you know, that Machel, just pure art, McFarlane, pure art. We can still have a lot of the elements that currently, we can be contemporary, but we can be cultural contemporary as well. And I think that's our blue ocean. That's our niche that we are carving out for ourselves.
Right. Well, I remember year one, the thing that stood out to me the most, because I didn't know you were behind spirits. This happens a lot.
Right, okay.
That I find out is WOW Events after.
I don't like to push myself on anything.
Yes, it's clear.
Not about me.
It's evident. It's evident.
I am a vessel.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah.
And when I heard about it, I say, a brunch for most of the day Monday.
Yeah, boy.
It sounded like a great idea, because he said something in an interview recently where he said the sun getting hotter. I've been saying this for years.
Crazy.
I don't know if people could sustain, or there's some people who sustaining on 2 days on the road like that.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
It's very tough. And we invest a lot in hydration, a lot in water. This year people complain that we didn't have enough shade in lunch packs. So best believe that we will have everybody covered next year, because again, the sun is just something that you can't account for.
Right.
You know,
of course.
You know what I mean? It's and with climate change, it's you're seeing the effects of it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's good, and I think with regards to things like the brunch and these things, those things work very well, because masqueraders are now able to find the band.
Yeah, so the brunch, the idea behind the brunch was really to limit the amount of time you're spending on your road.
No, the idea behind the brunch was, I think we needed to, I found that masqueraders already come out late on a Monday, right? And when they come out late, the band has already left. So you always find yourself as a masquerader, see the masquerader and be like, hey, where's X band? Where they going? Where Y is? Oh, they're up the road. So, but you park so far that you have to walk. Why don't we just meet at a central location, right? And gather there and then leave together. That way we can park where we think we know where the band is, and then we come back right in. Yeah.
You know, it's something that when you talk about the Blue Ocean strategy, and it's a book that I have to read now, because I saw where Juve at one point in time was starting right after the Marsh Grass. So sometime 1 o'clock in the morning, Juve started.
Yeah.
Crime hunting and violence, they move it to 4.
Yes.
So now what happens is Juve finishing later.
Yes.
And the bands never seem to change their start time at 10 on a Monday.
Correct.
So you kind of adjust into that. That's one of the things that make you different.
We leave at 1. And I saw some other bands this year as well.
Right.
And so I think that now Carnival will start later as a result of that, because it never really was a thing where you go out early on a Monday. They have some masqueraders boast about, but I ain't it from the beginning.
Yeah, that's me. If they start in 10, I'm going to work it. I want the first drink off that truck.
Yeah. But when we gather in a bunch, obviously it's very exuberant. There's a great food there.
Yeah. People talk about that a lot here.
Fantastic food, and I think when we looked at the math, it's very easy to provide a better quality,
and still be profitable.
Yes, of course.
Got you.
Yes.
So it's scaling now, because you talk about scaling with events. Yes. What was your numbers last year compared to this year for Spirit?
Also, we went up to 3,800 masqueraders, and we had 2,700. We went about 1,000, 1,100.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay in there. Never crossing there.
Oh yeah, staying there.
Never.
All right, so people,
I don't want to do that.
Make your calls now.
Yeah.
Make your calls. Who's find out who you know.
Never moving up. Never.
You feel that's a sweet spot?
Yeah, I don't want to. That allows us to produce more quality for them, but without it being completely bad. Because I've played in bands that were 7,000 people.
Yeah, of course, you remember.
And it's
them,
like, you
can't find back
you
nobody.
lose your friend, you're done. You're done for the day. You know what I mean? You're on your own.
Yeah,
and you'll have your vex money because you don't know how you're going back. You know what I mean? So I like that. I think we're still the smallest of the big bands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you intend to keep it. So how are you going to deal with the excess demand? Because everybody I know, people playing Lost Tribe this year, people ain't play Mass. I ain't play Mass for the last few years.
Yeah.
But the numbers high in terms of people saying, I go in Spirit next year.
Yeah.
But there's always say, if I could get it.
Yeah.
So how you addressing that part?
Like it's just we don't want to compromise the experience at all.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we even realize, okay, well, when you jump up to this number, you have to have these amount of resources in place and stuff. And this is our second year. We still learning things ways that we could improve and stuff. But we believe that this number is perfect for us, for our model. Perfect.
Yeah.
And if it's a possibility of that excessive demand, then we create another model, but it'll be completely different. Right?
But I understand, because as a business owner myself, right, it is extremely difficult to sit for the types of hours we sit on.
Yes.
Try, like as you say, I come up with a bad idea, I get ridiculed in meeting, we feel like we have the right thing.
Yes.
And the intention is always there.
Yes.
But the reality is when rubber hit the road,
yes,
I always tell people you have to fix the tire while the car driving.
Yes. Correct.
And I wonder if you feel like you're still in that phase where Spurs is, because I mean Soca is a well-oiled machine at this point.
Yes.
From the time you hear the announcements walking into a Soca venue, you know the energy starts to build.
Yes.
Until you can't remember how you reach home.
It's easier to trip. It's much easier.
For event like that.
Yes, it's still.
But you're sticking with it. You fix any things as you go along,
of course.
regardless.
And every band has to go through that.
Yeah, of course.
We know that there've been a lot of problems with other bands before in the past, and you watch them bounce back.
Yeah.
And you watch them make the adjustments.
Yeah, well, you see, my assumption was that you're gonna continue to scale, but this is a hell of a lot of news.
No, I'm not.
People gonna be disappointed in Adrian.
No, I'm not. I don't want it to be too big.
Your philosophy is right in that if you keep it where it is, but that demand, but you're willing to explore another offering.
Maybe, and it has to have a purpose. It can't be the same thing as Spirited. Maybe something else. It hasn't come to me yet or thinking about it, but it has to have a different meaning.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't do it if it doesn't have meaning.
Yeah, but yeah, I like the idea of purpose. And I tell you, we close to wrapping up, because this man say he had to go in mass camp. We in what month we in April? He tell me he had to go in mass camp. You have a hard out. So what are you doing in the mass camp now?
Remember, we in design phase now, right?
For all the events for next year?
Yeah.
It starts so early?
Yeah, because if you don't, we have so many things to manage. If you don't start now, it just becomes a problem in the last quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, in terms of like, for Spirit, for example, remember we're designing and we have a marketing campaign coming up. We want to announce our theme and what we're doing. And even our theme and what we're doing always has to have meaning and purpose in it. It's not just like a galactic theme or we're calling it this and it's about all things Trinidad, right? And we want to continue to be very cohesive in our approach and impactful. So we have to be very, very careful and put in the hours now to create a great campaign and a band launch that is ultimately going to end up being a musical. You understand? So you should come to the band launch. It's different.
Yeah. I'll definitely be there. Something that now we have me going to these events with different eyes, Adrian. Because I go into blackouts and I don't have time. Me and my wife, you know, much of your Rubbermaid tables. My wife sleep on leaving Soca years after that. So we come in with that, but now I see it very, very differently. That the purpose behind it is there.
Yeah, and it has to have meaning for even the people like my staff, like. The great thing about it is they take full responsibility for everything. They love this more than I love it. Like it seems to me. They're in it. They own it.
Right.
You know, and so they can't own something that that doesn't have meaning. You know? And so that's why I say we can't do something just like that. It had to have something special about it. It has to be disruptive in its own way.
Yeah.
You know, so it doesn't make sense to make the band bigger than it is right now.
Okay, it's you. You're breaking a lot of hearts here. So sending them a little less early. I leaving them with a list about 20. Out of that 3,800, we are 20 secure.
Yeah.
You know my problem now, Adrian. Everybody going to say, so you sit down with Adrian and now you're saying, and we
can't get... serious? That's going to happen?
If again it's going to happen.
Yeah, is that bad?
I'm going to say, boy, Adrian, come eating and he leave as soon as he say last word, he ride out.
I've got a good excuse. But it's been good and I feel very blessed to be a part of this thing,
Well, good. It's a pleasure. Glad you came through. I feel proud as a Fatima man.
Yeah, me too.
In the beginning, I thought Adrian was a year after me and Fatima.
Yeah.
Apparently, I'm much older than I thought. I watched me and Adrian was the same year.
I never saw you in school, bro.
Serious?
No.
Well, I
saw me?
I was never really there. I saw you for sure. The first time I said, they school and Fatima.
Nah, Fatima is I would not be who I am today without Fatima.
Yeah, Fatima is a special place. Fatima is a special place. At some point, you will get Father Gregory in this seat to talk about some of that.
Yeah. They've just the ground in.
Of course. So thanks for coming through, not just for coming through today, but for everything that you're doing for the culture. I'm glad you were able to talk about some of the purpose behind it.
Yes.
Because I think it's important for people to see. People sometimes, a lot of times in my conversations here, people see commercial as replacing culture.
Yes.
And I'm glad to see that you're doing the work.
We're going to do more. We're going to continue strengthening the bridge that we built. Mm-hmm. And we want, if you're seeing this as a creative, come to us.
Good.
If you're creative and you feel that you can add value, what I call the timeline. Mm-hmm. If you could add value in the timeline, then our doors are open. You know what I mean? We literally just working with people who are great.
No, that's good. You're one of the greats, you know what I mean? And I'd leave you go to the mass camp. I telling myself, if this carnival thing's sustainable, because I feeling like it's 2 months of the year, you're working, but you're working right through.
Everybody, and shout out to everybody that is working on carnival, and a lot of people feel that we just pop up and do this.
Pop up, make a money right out.
People put so much time and effort into, mass.
Right.
Remember it's procurement, it's purchasing, it's manufacturing, it's finance, it's admin, it's marketing.
Yeah.
And then you go into logistics and food and beverage and distribution and road management. When you look at that, it's a tough business.
Yeah, it sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. It has its pluses, and I want to shout out everybody who's done their thing before, the Wayne Barclays, the Barbarossa, the Big Mike's, they literally set a foundation. You know what I mean?
As you bring them up, let me ask you one more question before you go. Competition meaningful to you, like Banner of the Year and stuff?
Oh, yes, for sure, yes.
Okay. So it's something
we're
you're
very
paying
proud.
attention
We
to.
won second in design.
Yeah, you all look different on the road. You look real different.
We're very proud of that. We want to win Banner of the Year.
Oh, serious?
Yes, for sure. We want to win.
All right, so you have my commitment. I need band launch of our Soca as always, and I would Spirit next year.
Okay, amazing.
So I come in to do a review.
Yes.
But I want you sitting here for the review next year.
Okay, sure.
You can do that?
Do it, 100%.
All right, great. I appreciate it.
I love this song.
Yeah. I'll sing a different song about you next year. Thanks a million. Yeah, appreciate it, man. Appreciate that, yeah.